Have you ever found yourself in a relationship where slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, you started to feel diminished, your confidence systematically chipped away, your vibrant spirit inexplicably dimmed, your very sense of self becoming fragile, uncertain, almost unrecognizable? It often doesn't happen with a bang, with overt aggression. It's a slow, insidious, silent erosion, and tragically, many men don't even realize they're being psychologically broken until the damage is profound, until it's almost too late to easily recover. Because let me tell you a truth that many are afraid to speak. Some of the most devastating, most effective ways women can break men, can shatter their spirit, aren't through loud arguments or obvious betrayals. They are through subtle, insidious, psychologically potent tactics, carefully calibrated behaviors that exploit common male vulnerabilities, systematically undermine self-worth, corrode confidence, and leave a man a hollow shell of his former powerful self. Today, we are not tiptoeing around this. We are dragging these soul-crushing dynamics out of the murky shadows and into the harsh light of truth. I am exposing 3 common yet incredibly devastating ways that some women can intentionally or unintentionally break men in relationships. And more importantly, much more importantly, I am arming you with the exact psychological strategies, the mental frameworks, to recognize these destructive tactics early, to shield yourself effectively, and ultimately to become not just resilient, but truly unbreakable. And pay very close attention, because tactic number 2 is so common, so deceptively normal in many modern dynamics, yet so profoundly misunderstood in its capacity to erode a man's core. You absolutely need to see this for what it is. Now, why are men, often strong and capable in other areas of their lives, frequently so vulnerable to these specific dynamics within intimate relationships? Several factors contribute to this unseen battlefield. Societal conditioning and emotional stoicism. Men are often relentlessly conditioned from a young age to be strong, to suppress emotions, to take it on the chin. This makes it incredibly difficult for many to even recognize, let alone admit, when they are being emotionally undermined, manipulated, or abused. They're expected to tough it out, often in silence. The pervasive myth of female innocence. There's a deeply ingrained, dangerous societal myth that only men can be the primary aggressors, abusers, or manipulators in relationships. This pervasive blind spot leaves many men psychologically defenseless, unable to accurately name, address, or seek help for the subtle emotional warfare they might be experiencing from a female partner. Lack of education on emotional intelligence and toxic dynamics. Most men simply aren't taught how to identify sophisticated emotional manipulation, covert narcissism, or the dynamics of toxic relationships. They lack the vocabulary and the framework to understand what's happening to them. This isn't about engaging in gender bashing or promoting a battle of the sexes. Far from it. This is about acknowledging a stark reality. Toxic behaviors, manipulative tactics, and emotional abuse can emanate from anyone, regardless of gender. Understanding these specific, often gendered ways men can be psychologically broken is the absolute first step to building your impenetrable psychological armor, demanding healthier connections, and safeguarding your mental and emotional well-being. Tactic number 1. This is perhaps the most insidious because its effects are cumulative and often denied by the perpetrator. It's the slow, systematic, relentless erosion of a man's confidence, his self-esteem, and his fundamental sense of self-worth. This isn't typically accomplished through one big dramatic blow-up. Rather, it's the psychological equivalent of death by 1,000 cuts, a barrage of constant subtle criticisms, demeaning comments cleverly disguised as jokes or teasing, unfavorable and often unfair comparisons, and the consistent undermining or trivializing of his achievements, ambitions, or opinions. How this poison manifests. She might habitually belittle his job, his income, his hobbies, his friends, his family, anything that gives him a sense of identity or pride outside of her. She might constantly, almost compulsively, point out his perceived flaws, his shortcomings, his mistakes, rarely, if ever, acknowledging his strengths, his efforts, or his positive qualities. She might regularly dismiss his opinions as unimportant, make him feel intellectually inadequate, or consistently make him feel sexually incompetent or undesirable. The devastating psychological impact. Over time, this constant drip feed of negativity, this relentless undermining, chips away at a man's core sense of self. Like water eroding rock, he starts to internalize the criticism. He begins to genuinely doubt his abilities, his judgment, his attractiveness, his very worth as a man, as a partner, as a human being. He becomes more anxious, more hesitant, more dependent on her, often fleeting and conditional approval, creating a deeply toxic codependency where his spirit is slowly extinguished. Your unbreakable defense protocol. Recognize the insidious pattern immediately. Do not dismiss these as isolated incidents, bad moods, or senescence, or just her way. See the cumulative corrosive effect of these microaggressions. Call it what it is: emotional abuse. Anchor your self-worth. Internally and irrevocably, your value as a man is inherent and not dictated by her opinion, her validation, or her criticism. Actively remind yourself of your strengths, your accomplishments, your positive qualities. Seek validation from within and from genuinely supportive sources. Set firm, unambiguous boundaries, the line in the sand. Calmly, clearly, and firmly state, "I will not be spoken to in that way," or "that comment was demeaning and unacceptable," or "when you consistently criticize my ex, it is damaging. I require respectful communication." Strategic disengagement and consequence implementation. If a joke is demeaning, do not laugh, do not engage, give it no energy. If she continues to criticize after a boundary has been set, calmly state the consequence. As e.g., if this disrespect continues, I will end this conversation, this interaction, this relationship, and be 100% prepared to follow through. Critically evaluate the source and intent. Is this isolated, constructive feedback delivered respectfully, which is rare in these patterns, or is it habitual, demeaning, undermining, designed to control or diminish? If it's the latter, recognize that it is a massive, non-negotiable red flag, indicating the relationship is fundamentally toxic and likely unsalvageable. This is a sophisticated, often covert, form of gaslighting and psychological warfare designed to make you more pliable, more dependent, and easier to control. Your unshakable, internally sourced self-belief, coupled with your willingness to enforce boundaries with decisive action, is your impenetrable shield. Tactic number 2, a classic, insidious, and devastatingly effective tool in the arsenal of emotional destruction: skillful, pervasive emotional manipulation and chronic, unrelenting guilt tripping. This involves her expertly using a man's own emotions, his love for her, his loyalty, his empathy, his innate desire to please and protect, against him as leverage to control his behavior, to extract compliance, and to ensure her needs and desires always take precedence, often at his significant expense. How this poison manifests. The strategic silent treatment, withdrawing affection, communication, or intimacy until he breaks down, apologizes, often for things he didn't do, and caves to her demands. Weaponizing past mistakes, constantly dredging up his past errors, real or perceived, often exaggerated, to keep him perpetually indebted, apologetic, and feeling like he has to make it up to her indefinitely. The "if you really loved me" ploy, employing phrases like "if you really loved me, you would do X" against your own judgment boundaries, or "a good partner would sacrifice Y for me," or making him feel solely responsible for her happiness, her emotional state, or her life's problems. Exaggerated emotional displays and victimhood, using tears, dramatic outbursts, or claims of extreme fragility to manipulate him into doing what she wants or to deflect accountability for her own actions. The devastating psychological impact. This insidious campaign leaves a man constantly walking on invisible eggshells, perpetually anxious about upsetting her, and burdened by a pervasive sense of guilt, inadequacy, or being a bad partner. He loses his autonomy, his ability to make decisions based on his own judgment, and becomes entirely reactive to her emotional state rather than proactive in shaping his own life and well-being. He essentially becomes her emotional puppet, his strings expertly pulled by her manipulative cues. Your unbreakable defense protocol. Identify the manipulative tactic with cold clarity. Recognize emotional blackmail, guilt trips, strategic withdrawal, and weaponized victimhood for exactly what they are. Manipulative power plays, not genuine expressions of need or love. Refuse to play her game, break the pattern. Do not engage with the silent treatment by begging or pleading. Do not repeatedly apologize for things that are not your fault, or for simply upholding your own reasonable boundaries. State your reality, calmly, firmly, and factually. I understand you're upset, unhappy, but I am not responsible for managing your emotions or for your overall happiness. That is your responsibility. Or, my love commitment to you is not and will not be defined by my willingness to violate my own boundaries, values. Focus on observable facts and behaviors, not her manipulated emotions. Stick to the objective reality of the situation. Do not get drawn into her emotional vortex or allow her feelings to dictate your actions against your better judgment. Maintain your boundaries with unwavering resolve. Her emotional reaction, however intense or dramatic, does not obligate you to abandon your core principles, your needs, or your self-respect. Your boundaries are non-negotiable. She is attempting to condition you, like Pavlov's dog, to respond to her emotional cues with immediate compliance and self-abnegation. Breaking this insidious conditioning by not reacting as she expects, by holding your frame, is absolutely crucial to reclaiming your agency, your power, and your sanity. Tactic number 3, and this is one of the most insidious and dangerous because it systematically cuts a man off from his vital support systems, his external reality checks, and his avenues of escape. The gradual, strategic, and often covert isolation from his friends, his family, his hobbies, and any external influences that she perceives as a threat to her control or influence over him. This is often accomplished under the guise of "our relationship should be enough." They're a bad influence on you, or by consistently creating drama, conflict, or discomfort around his external connections. How this poison manifests. She might subtly or overtly express disapproval of his closest friends, making it increasingly uncomfortable or problematic for him when they're around or when he wants to spend time with them. She might demand an ever-increasing amount of his free time, his emotional energy, making him feel guilty or disloyal for pursuing his own individual hobbies, interests, or spending time with his family. She might skillfully cultivate an us against the world narrative, where anyone outside the bubble of the relationship is portrayed as a threat, a negative influence, jealous or not understanding of their special connection. She may even create conflicts or triangulation scenarios between him and his loved ones to drive a wedge. The devastating psychological impact. As a man becomes progressively more isolated from his trusted support network, he becomes increasingly dependent on her for all his emotional, social, and sometimes even practical needs. This makes him significantly more vulnerable to her influence, her control, her perspective, however distorted it may be, and far less likely to leave, even if the relationship is deeply unhealthy or abusive, because he feels he has nowhere else to turn, no one else to confide in. His external perspectives, his crucial reality checks, his lifelines are systematically severed. Your unbreakable defense protocol. Fiercely guard your connections and autonomy. Make a conscious, unwavering effort to maintain healthy, supportive relationships with trusted friends and family members. Do not allow these vital connections to be eroded, dismissed, or sabotaged. Protect your time and individual pursuits. Continue to actively pursue your individual hobbies, your passions, your personal growth activities. A healthy relationship encourages and makes space for individuality and personal fulfillment. It doesn't suffocate it. Recognize manipulative isolation tactics. Instantly be acutely wary of anyone who consistently tries to turn you against people who genuinely care about you, who belittles your external relationships, or who demands an unhealthy monopoly on your time and attention. Actively seek and value outside perspectives. If you begin to feel controlled, isolated, or confused about the dynamics in your relationship, make it a priority to talk to trusted, objective friends, family members, or a qualified therapist. They can offer invaluable external perspectives and reality checks. Assert your autonomy and right to external connections. Calmly but firmly state, I deeply value our time together, and I also deeply value my friendships, family relationships, personal pursuits. A healthy, balanced life includes all of these, and that is important to me and non-negotiable. Isolation is a cornerstone tactic of control and manipulation across many abusive dynamics. By maintaining strong, vibrant external anchors, your relationships, your passions, your purpose, you retain your independent identity, your objective perspective, and your psychological resilience, making you far less susceptible to her control and far more capable of seeing the relationship for what it truly is. Gentlemen, recognizing these insidious, man-breaking tactics is your absolutely critical first line of defense. But true, lasting protection, genuine unbreakability, comes not just from recognizing external threats, but from building an impregnable inner fortress, a core of profound, unshakable self-worth, ironclad personal boundaries, a crystal-clear sense of your own identity and purpose, all of which are entirely independent of any external relationship or any single individual's validation. When you are deeply anchored in your own intrinsic value, when you know, without a shadow of a doubt, what you will and will not tolerate in how you are treated, these manipulative tactics lose their venomous power over you. You see them instantly for what they are, desperate ploys for control, reflections of her issues, not yours, and you can choose to disengage, to enforce your boundaries, or to remove yourself entirely from the toxic dynamic without being emotionally shattered, without losing your sense of self. Your power lies not in controlling her, but in mastering yourself. The 3 insidious ways some women can break men and your unshakable shield against them. Tactic 1, the slow erosion of confidence and self-worth. Defend with radical internal validation and immovable boundaries. Tactic 2, pervasive emotional manipulation and guilt-tripping. Defend by refusing to play her psychological games and by calling out the manipulation. Tactic 3, strategic isolation and dependence creation. Defend by fiercely guarding your external connections, your autonomy, and your independent identity. This is about awareness, self-preservation, and collective strength. In the comments section below, I want you to share your hard-earned wisdom. Which of these soul-crushing tactics have you personally witnessed or experienced? And what was the single most effective strategy you employed, or wish you had employed, to protect yourself and reclaim your power? Or what's another subtle, insidious way men can be broken that every other man here needs to be acutely aware of? Let's arm each other with knowledge. Let's build an impenetrable fortress of shared understanding. If this video, this critical intelligence, could help even one man recognize these destructive patterns before it's too late, if it could help him protect his spirit, his sanity, his very essence, then it is invaluable. Share this video with the men in your life, your friends, your brothers, your sons. Awareness is armor. Knowledge is power. For more unfiltered, potent insights into navigating the often treacherous dynamics of relationships, building unshakable self-respect, mastering your psychological defenses, and living a life of authentic power and integrity, make sure you have absolutely smashed that subscribe button and have activated all notifications. Stay vigilant, stay strong, stay sovereign, protect your core, command your life,